going to begin with a little bit of our MWF software that powers the StrucSoft solution, that powers the SCAFCO tools. So what exactly is Metal Wood Framer, or MWF? It is an extension that runs directly in the Revit environment. We recognize Revit walls, floors, roofs, ceilings, and then we automatically place our framing and associated details within those Revit elements. This allows us to use MWF to model, coordinate, and take you directly to manufacturing, whether it's shop drawings or CNC output. A couple of additional features that MWF can provide are generating extra studding around openings, placing elements such as kickers, bracings, furrings, deflection connectors, elements along those lines. We have equipment backing members, so we're going to take a much closer look at that today in regards to the SCAFCO tools. And while we're placing all of these elements within our model, we are automatically panel numbering and shape labeling, which is going to really help us keep track of everything that's going on within our project. We also have proprietary component libraries, such as these SCAFCO elements that we're going to be taking a look at today. We can use MWF for clash detection. Our integrated clash detection engine will recognize Revit elements that are either linked into your project or live in the model. Once it sees an element penetrating through a wall, we will create a structural opening around that penetration and then frame that wall based on the Revit category. So it can recognize, for example, ducts differently than cable trays, or casework, or pipes. So there's a lot of intelligence in that. And then, as I mentioned, we can send all of our panel information directly to our shop drawings and to CNC machines. So if we're going to send our panels out to shop drawings, you'll notice a framing elevation is created, fully dimensioned. All of my members are fully labeled, and they're placed in parametric viewports. So utilizing the power of Revit, if I need to make a last-minute change in this shop drawing we see here, I can simply activate this viewport, move a stud, and my drawing is updated, and that stud moves in my project as well. Moving directly into the SCAFCO tools that we'll be taking a look at today, we will look at the Supreme Stud Selector. And this is going to work for structural and non-structural walls, and it's going to populate our panels and create all of the elements directly from the SCAFCO product catalogs. So these are all of the families that are available by SCAFCO, can now be incorporated into MWF. For example, the priceless header. It will recognize your door families, windows, structural openings, and frame it exactly with the priceless header, whether it's the HD or HDR members. So we'll take a look at this in the software in a minute. Then we're going to generate some deflection connectors. So again, using MWF, we will place our panel in the wall. We will recognize the supporting beam within that panel's vicinity, and again, place your deflection connectors based on the deflection clip type that you've specified. So we'll take a look at the different options we have there. SCAFCO's notched backing members, I'm sure you're all familiar with, can be placed on a SCAFCO panel. The notches are cut out, making ordering directly from the manufacturer very, very simple. And then we're going to take a look at the curved members and the wall reports, which can be automatically generated from the live model. And that wraps up our little presentation, so we're going to jump directly into the Revit environment. You'll notice here, for those of you who are not familiar with the StrucSoft Solutions tab that is inserted, I have all of my Pro Wall commands, Pro Floor, Pro Truss, Pro Rafters. So we're going to take a look at this little storefront that I have here. And just to give you an idea, we're going to take a look at some straight out of the box MWF commands, just so you can get a little familiar with how the software works within the Revit environment. so I can see all of my studs that have been generated. And as changes take place in my models, which we all know they can, so this door, perhaps it moves over here. Anytime a change takes place in my model, I simply select any element of the panel, whether it's a king stud or the header or this panel label, and I regenerate. MWF will recognize this change and update the framing, as you can see here. So you'll also notice in the corners of my wall, I have this clashing like condition from my two end studs. To clean up this corner, I can just select these two walls, and I can simply place a join from based off of a list of previously defined corner configurations. Here, if I have drywall passing through, here's a built-up condition. I'll say OK. It's going to place a join marker, and it's going to reconfigure my studs in this corner. So no longer do I have that clashing configuration. And we have template mapping options, which would allow me to place these kinds of joins in every instance within my project. Let's just get rid of the section box here. So that is a very basic look into how MWF works. We simply read the wall type and we place panels directly in that wall. Let's begin by opening up this panel's properties right here. For the time being, I can see I'm framing this wall with just generic SSMA members. I want to utilize SCAFCO's Supreme Non-Structural Stud Selector. So in the Stud Selector dialog box, I can begin by selecting the deflection that is needed on this panel, my lateral load, the product I'm interested in using, which would be the Supreme Non-Structural Studs, my composite here, I'm going to brace it at 48 on center. I then specify the web depth of the studs I want to use in this wall, so I know it's a 6-inch wall, and then my needed spacing. You'll notice that my limiting heights chart has been narrowed down, and it gets narrowed down even further. So right now the stud selector is recommending I use one of these two members, and it's telling me I have an allowable height of 18 feet and 9 inches. My wall's not that high, so I can select this member without a problem. I notice as I select it, it's telling me the stud I'm using, my spacing, the maximum allowable height, and in the corner here, I've opted to use the Supreme Non-Structural tracks on the top and bottom of my panel. So simply by clicking OK, it's going to load all of these members into my project and place them directly in my panel. So when I say OK in this MWF panel's properties, I then notice that my columns are Supreme Non-Structural 600 SFS 30s. My top tracks are Supreme 600s as well. Utilizing the power of MWF, I can now, again, open this template's properties, and I can save this template for future use. So I can base other panels I'm going to be creating today off of the properties of this panel. So we can call it something like 600 SFS, and I know my stud spacing is 16 on center. So I give this template this name, I can close it and continue. The next option we're going to take a look at are one of the track options. So if I take this wall right here, I notice this panel. Again, I can open up the MWF properties. From the miscellaneous tab, I'm concerned with the SCAFCO tracks. I now have the option to specify a deflection gap the track type I'm interested in using, whether it's the slotted deep leg or just the slotted leg track. Specify my web depth. It's going to automatically read the information from the panel, so it knows it's a 600. And then I can specify the specific member I'm interested in. Take this guy right here. I also have the option to model clips below. These are the DESC clips, the head of wall clips, deflection clips, a couple of names for them. So again, simply by saying OK and OK again, it's going to load this member into the project for me and place it on the top of this wall. It's going to take a minute. Again, while I'm presenting, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat portion of the GoToWebinar. And we have a couple of staff members answering questions as we go along. So there you have it. I have the SCAFCO SDLT deep leg slotted track. And again, I can take this panel's properties and I can save it as a template. So this would be my exterior wall 600 deep leg. This template is ready to be used in future applications. So again, I can close this property down and continue framing my project. So maybe you're wondering where all of these families are coming from. In a minute or two, I'm going to show you the folder where we install or where we store all of these SCAFCO families. It'll make a little more sense in a minute. But for the time being, I want to just swing down here and take a look at this door again. Right now, I'm framing it with the SCAFCO members. However, I'm interested in framing these double glass doors with the priceless header. So I'm going to use a MWF framing marker located in the marker types dialog box. Again, these are straight out of the box MWF features. So I have this marker right here called the priceless header. I'm going to duplicate my default and I'm going to give it a name, something like, we'll say double glass. Open it up. We're going to open the priceless header double glass marker and take a look at everything in here. So I definitely want to frame my header as the priceless header. I can uncheck that and just use regular Supreme tracks. I'm going to keep it with the priceless, and I have the option to either frame this with the HDR or just the HD member, which allows me to select the header track on top. I'll stick with the HDR. I then filter the web depth of my panel. I know it's 600. The desired flange width, and it narrows it down to that 54 mil for me. That's my only option, so I select it. Switching to the sill tab, if this was a window or an opening, I could specify how I want to frame the sill. For this door, I'm not so concerned about it, so I jump to the jam tab. And we have the priceless quick jam stud. Again, it knows I'm working with a 600, so it auto-filled that in for me. All I need to do is specify my desired flange. So I have my 238 or my 338 option, and then I have a couple of gauges I can narrow it down to. Specify this member. We jump to the rough openings tab. If my door contained rough opening parameters, so if I had, for example, a 1/4 inch on either side I needed to add for framing purposes, for installation, I could simply use the rough opening. If I don't have that parameter or that instance on this door, I can simply add it right here. I can say I want a 1/4 inch on the left and right. And I'll have an additional 1/4 inch on both sides. So we will say OK here. We're ready to apply this marker, this framing marker we call them, onto this double glass door simply by changing its data from blank, to priceless header, double glass, say OK. And because we've made a change to this panel, just like when I moved this door before, I simply regenerate, and MWF sees this framing condition on this door and updates my framing. There you have it. I can see now my jam stud is the 600 quick jam and my priceless header right inside here. So if I get rid of this guy, we can actually take a little quick look in here. We can actually see the clips that are being used as well. There's the SCAFCO SC clip, quick installation, not a problem. Get rid of that. So we've already seen the SCAFCO Supreme Stud Selector. We've seen our top track options, which will automatically load these elements in. And we've seen the priceless header marker. Let's take a jump to the other side of the project. We'll look at our deflection connector capability. So I have this transparent wall right here. I'm going to, again, place a template and use my exterior wall template I've created. Create. It's going to place that panel with that slotted track. I don't have to worry about performing any of the commands I've already shown. To expedite this process, we can also use MWF's template map option, which allows me to map my MWF templates to my Revit wall types. So I have that generic 6-inch exterior wall, and I've already created that, sorry about that 600 exterior wall template, and I have a couple of interior walls that I made that template for right there. We'll come back to this curved wall after when we look at our perfect curve products. Now I can select an array of walls, no matter what their wall type. If they're multiple categories, it's not a problem. I simply hit the quick create option. It recognizes the wall type, so it's going to put my slotted track on the wall up here, and it's going to put my regular Supreme members in the walls below. Just a quick little tip right there for you. What we're interested in is this panel connecting to this beam. So I do need to activate the SCAFCO deflection connector options in this template. Say OK. And then I have a few options here. I can select the wall and the beam and have a deflection connector placed on every member, or I can select individual members if I only needed 2 or 3 deflection clips on this panel. I'm going to go ahead and place it on the entire panel. So by selecting the wall and this beam, I simply say add deflection connectors by rule. It's going to ask me for a set, and the SCAFCO deflection connector dialog box appears. Just like before, I begin by selecting the clip type I'm interested in using. You'll notice all of the options I have here, whether it's the PLC3 or PLS2 attached to the underside of the flange. I'm interested in using the, well, let's use the, oh no, we'll use the DPLC. Right here I see my little preview change over here. I can begin by filtering my part number, my allowable loads, or I can simply just select the member I know I'm interested in, say OK. It's going to, again, see that beam and place a deflection clip on the back of the web of my studs. There we go. I can see them there. If I swing around to this side of the building, let's get this wall out of our way. I can see my clip has been placed on the back of my stud, attaching directly to the inner web of my supporting beam. So that is the deflection connectors. Very quick and easy. Select the wall, select the beam, on go your clips. Again, if you have any questions about these, feel free to type them in. We have staff online right now. Next, we're going to take a look at the notched backing. So here in my reception area, my little desk, I have this wall-mounted TV. So again, I'm going to create a panel directly in this wall. There it goes. See my TV right here. I'm interested in placing some notched backing on this member, which I can see is member S5, and I want to send it all the way over to member S8. So these are the basic MWF names that all of our studs are given for this exact reason. I need to know what studs I want to place my backing on. So again, by selecting one of my Supreme members, I just open the properties of this panel. We can make this a little smaller. From the miscellaneous tab where you can see I've been utilizing all of my commands. I'm interested in placing some horizontal members. Change my manufacturer to SCAFCO. I say edit, and right off the bat I can see it's already giving me some panel information. It's telling me the on-center studs that are being used. It's telling me my stud spacing and my stud flange. Now all this information is very important because it will narrow down the members that I'm allowed to select from. But first I want to specify the studs I need to attach my notched backing to. I said I want to go from member S5 all the way to S8. I'm interested in the center justification of this member. I want to attach it to the interior face of that panel. I have the option to select the notch stud or notch track. Use the stud, and then as I showed you before, all of the available members I can select. So I'm going to take this 600 notch stud, the designation of if you're already ordering from SCAFCO, it's very familiar for you, the spacing at 16. I then specify where I want this piece of track in relation to the bottom of my panel. I'm going to say 2 feet off the bottom. I just need one member, that's fine. I add the entire collection I've just made to this panel. Working in this manner, this allows me to place multiple notched backing on a single panel. So if I close this down again and say OK, it's going to place that member. There it is. I can hide my TV, and I can see my notch stud backing. You'll notice the cuts that are, if I isolate this member really quickly, I can swing around to the other side, and you can notice we're actually modeling all the cuts directly on the piece itself. Great, so I can reset that. Again, as I mentioned, we can place additional backing on this member if need be. So lastly, I'm going to jump to the curved walls we have framed here. You'll notice I have this big one in the front, and I have some of these head of wall or soffit walls up above. First, I want to load in the perfect curve SCAFCO tracks. So just like loading any Revit family, I open the load family command. We've gone ahead and tucked in our MWF installation folder right here, and I have the SCAFCO families. Here is everything we can select from. So those notch studs and backings, as I mentioned, all of the deflection connector clips, the head of wall clips, Supreme studs and tracks, and here are my perfect curve tracks. I'm just going to head down all the different sizes I have and grab a 600, 200 flange and a 150 flange, just so we can see the difference. Those have been loaded into my project, and simply by selecting these two panels, both containing, these two walls, both containing panels, I'm interested in selecting both of these panels. I can see that they're framing the top and bottom track just with these generic SSMA members. So I can change it to, this is my top track, the 125, and my bottom track to the, oh no, I want to do it the other way around, I'm sorry. The top to the 600, 200. So the two different members, say OK. It's going to place those members in my panels, regenerate them. And as I select them now, there's the perfect curved track on the bottom and on the top. So once I've framed these walls, I'm interested in ordering all of my material from SCAFCO. I know they come in up to maximum 12-foot lengths. So simply by selecting these two Revit walls containing these curved panels, I say curved wall report. And I can see that it is generating this little output for me here. I can stretch it out so we can really see everything. It's telling me the web depth of all my members, the profile, so my curved track, the leg height, its thickness is it's in inches here. I would use the designated mil thickness instead. And the number of pieces I need to order at what specific length, and the outside radius. I have the option to turn off columns that I don't need. So I don't need that, where's that thickness right here. If this is how I want my report to look, well, I can also change my rounding depending on how precise I want to be with my outside radius and my length. I can then export this information to this output folder I have created. It's going to come out as CSV. I'll just call it SCAFCO output. If I open that output folder, here it is generated as a CSV. Ready to order. Let me close that down. Jumping back into the Revit environment, I can say OK here. And I can turn here. Well, actually now I can take this, as I had done before, I can take my curved wall containing that profile and I can save it as a template. We'll call this curved wall template. You'll notice you have complete control over how we're naming all of our templates. That's up to the user, really. And then I can now simply select all the walls in my project that are missing panels, these little guys in here too, and simply run the quick create option again to generate all of my panels, all of my studs with the SCAFCO families that we've been seeing. So right now I'm actually creating 12 panels, so it's going to take a minute. Again, I encourage you to type out your questions as we're going along. If we don't have time to answer all of them, we'll get back to you either in an email or someone's going to give you a call and we'll get all your questions answered. So as that's going, it's going to take another quick second. Put all those panels in there. And then as I mentioned earlier, we can take any of these panels information and send it directly to either a CNC machine or send it directly to a shop drawing. And for fun, we'll look at a shop drawing real quick. Once this guy's finished these last studs. He's just finishing up. There he goes. If any of you are interested in seeing any of these tools in much more depth, a little more detail, interested in the families that we've created based off of SCAFCO specifications, off their catalogs, again, please feel free to contact us. Oh, I have some walls that I don't have the templates for. This is my upstairs walls. Yeah, not the end of the world. Let's just jump inside here. I can see all of my walls framed now. Take a look at our panel here. Like I said, I want to create the wall panel drawing. So again, this is one of the out-of-the-box MWF commands. Specify your title block. In they go. Generated in your sheets is your shop drawing. Top view, fully dimensioned. Framing elevation, you'll notice I have multiple dimension styles, whether I'm using an ordinate dimension style or a linear. All of my members labeled based off what they are exactly, my clips, my kings, my headers. A bill of material is generated, all of the quantities, lengths, customizable, additional columns in the end, overall diagonal lengths for squareness. And I can create all of these panels, these shop drawings at once, simply by selecting all of my panels. So that is a quick look at the SCAFCO tools added by StrucSoft Solutions, powered by MWF. So I thank you very much all for taking the time today to take a look at our commands, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.